when white women go missing, it's not a hard act. My colleagues will get more into that later. Now, the family retained us, and my law partner, Sue Ann Robinson, as I said, she went above and beyond. The family asked her, and she went on a fact-finding mission to Mexico on their behalf after being advised by us that the Mexican authorities were not doing their job. That's what the U.S. said. The Mexican authorities were not doing their job in regards to investigating this crime. And so, you know, for black people to get justice often in America and certainly abroad, we have to go above and beyond. And Sue Ann Robinson went above and beyond. I mean, this sister, she went down to Mexico for a week. I mean, had threats to her safety. She's a mother of two beautiful little girls, but she saw that she could not justify staying safe and playing it safe while Miss Robinson's daughter had been killed. So Sue Ann Robinson deserves all the credit in the world for going down there and getting the evidence necessary for us to come here today and to say to the department that it is clear Mexico has advised that their investigation is complete. They have identified a suspect. That suspect is currently out free in the United States of America, and that is not right that the suspects and the people involved are sleeping comfortably in their own beds at night. If they are guilty of a crime, then the United States government should do one or two things. One, they should either extradite the person who murdered Shanquella Robinson to Mexico to face the charges and the crimes that have been alleged against her. Or two, they should take jurisdiction. Mexico is willing to give jurisdiction to the United States to bring a case for those responsible for killing Shanquella Robinson to justice. And the only question is, State Department, President Biden, what are you going to do to bring justice for this broken-hearted family, especially this mother of Shanquella Robinson?
Nothing. Biden isn't going to do anything about this. He's not even going to publicly come out and address it. He could care less how much more black women voted for him than anybody else, because he's already aware that next year he could just go ahead and go down to South Carolina or North Carolina, host a fish fry, send Kamala down there.
Because how could I not?
And get all of them to come out and vote for him in droves. Doesn't matter if he's kept his promises or done anything at all for the group, he's still betting on that support. Take a second to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Click the notification bell for all updates. If you're watching from Charlotte or anywhere in North Carolina, definitely let me know below in the comments. Although Mexican authorities completed an investigation in the Shanquella Robinson case and issued a warrant for Dejanay Jackson, she was never extradited. So at this time, she is not behind bars as Shanquella's family continue to seek justice. Attorneys Ben Crump and Sue Ann Robinson sent a letter to Biden demanding diplomatic intervention by the U.S. and for the White House and the Department of State to prioritize bringing those accountable for Shanquella Robinson's death to justice. Journalist April Ryan was able to get a question in at the recent briefing, and now many are upset with the response from Biden's press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. Take a look.
Question, Shanquella Robinson. Ben Crump has sent a letter to the White House about this case. This young woman was killed in Mexico in October of last year. The suspect is in this country, along with those back here, along with those who were present during the deadly beating. Okay? He sent a letter asking for extradition of the suspect to Mexico for the Mexican authorities to deal with, or if not, take jurisdiction of it here and deal with it. What's next? What's the White House willing to do?
So let me just first say our hearts go out to Ms. Robinson's family and friends. It is devastating what occurred, and certainly the tragedy is just devastating. And we've been following the news here, but because there's an FBI investigation underway, there's very little that we can say. We got to, as you know, we are very careful about criminal investigations or any investigations that are currently happening through DOJ, in this particular case, FBI. But our hearts go out again, to the families, and I would have to refer you to the DOJ and the State Department on this.
Let me ask you this. So since there's an FBI investigation, does that mean nothing happens until the investigation is complete? Or, the United States has extradition treaty with Mexico. Is all of this contingent upon the FBI investigation?
What I can say is there's an investigation going on, so this is something that the FBI has to speak to. So that's why I'm referring you to the Department of Justice. And it's also an issue of the State Department, again, so would refer you to the State Department as it relates to another country and the diplomatic conversations that occur there. But again, this is something that we're clearly following here, and our hearts go out to her family.
And last question on this, though. Are there capabilities for the United States to take jurisdiction over this if it doesn't go, if the suspect is not extradited back?
Look, April, I understand the question, and I appreciate the questions, all important questions to ask of me. But again, there's an ongoing investigation, so I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
Process, not necessarily the investigation.
But there is a process that's currently happening because of the investigation, so I would refer you to the Department of Justice and also the State Department, as there are, this is a diplomatic issue that needs to be handled on that end. Okay.
Supporters of Shanquella, they're saying that Jean-Pierre had an attitude. They said that she seemed like she wasn't interested in the case, and even said that she didn't care about Shanquella because Shanquella was a black woman. And I believe that was mentioned because Jean-Pierre, her partner, is a white woman. You had a lot of people going in on her. They did not like her responses to April's questions. So, Tamika Mallory, she's been working with the mother and the sister. Seems like they may be leaving the father out, but Tamika is encouraging people to keep demanding justice for Shanquella.
It is all too often that when black women are harmed, people don't show up. We fight against that. It is a struggle that we deal with in this movement often, that we cannot find people to stand solid and to continue to show up months and months and months later as these situations unfold. So I want to thank those who drove up from North Carolina. Yes. I want to thank all of you who've come out today to be here and to be present for Shanquella Robinson's family.
It is true that folks may get upset for a while, and then the interest and momentum may fizzle out some. And you have a lot of supporters also mad and complaining that Shanquella's case isn't getting much media attention now. One thing I do remember is that the response from Mexico came from the grassroots on social media and the noise made by independent media surrounding the case. But then supporters started getting upset about that too when people talked about the case. So now they're still complaining about it, that less people are talking about it and there's less eyeballs on Shanquella Robinson's case. I do believe that Shanquella will get justice. I just don't think that the supporters will be satisfied either way. But there is new information in the case being reported. Take a look.
Her name has made headlines nationwide. It's been more than 4 months since the Charlotte native went on a trip with friends to Cabo, Mexico. She didn't return home alive. Mexican authorities have ruled her death a femicide or murder. The FBI also investigating her death. But here we are 4 months later, still no arrests in this case, leaving many questions like how did this happen and who did it? Today, the attorney for Shanquella Robinson's family sent us a copy of a letter. The Robinson family and a national activist are now calling on President Biden and Secretary of State Antony Blinken to personally help to bring justice for Shanquella. The letter to the president also included a packet of Mexican police records that had not been released previously, and an autopsy. There's a copy of it for you right here. We went through it very carefully, and we found there are some key takeaways here for you to understand. First off, this was performed the day after Shanquella was killed. It shows Shanquella died from atlas and medullary dislocation. In simple terms, that's a broken neck and a severe spinal cord injury. The autopsy also found contusions or blunt force trauma to her front region or her head and parts of her pelvis as well. And there were also friction burns on her body. In early November, this video showing an alleged fight went viral on social media. Now, we don't know if she sustained those injuries described in the autopsy during this fight, but her family says this is Shanquella in the video. And the FBI in Charlotte tells WBTV they were also sent that video. Now, in the packet of documents they provide by the law firm representing Shanquella's family were those police reports. They interviewed someone who interacted with Shanquella and her friends while in Cabo. Here's our Brandon Hamilton's report.
An employee at the resort Robinson was staying at describes providing assistance to the friends in Robinson inside their Cabo, Mexico villa. That unidentified male employee told investigators the group arrived on the night of October the 28th. He said he met Robinson around dinner time. He added she was the last to the table, quote, seemed not to fit in with the others and was out of place at that party.
Obviously, Shanquella was attacked by someone in the group, one of the travel mates. So the employee describing their interaction lets me know that the environment that she was in for her last moments wasn't a positive one.
The next day, October the 29th, as we've reported, Robinson was found dead. According to the transcript, the resort employee received a text from the main guest asking about medical service and added that Robinson had alcohol poisoning. Employee later learned Robinson had died. In the initial death certificate provided by her family, a spinal cord injury was listed as the cause of death. In the hours after her death, again, according to the transcript, the group requested a driver to go to dinner. They would never come back to the villa. After seeing this viral video, the employee in the transcript said, quote, I realized that practically the main guest had manipulated me with the information she provided of what happened to leave the country as soon as possible.
And our Brandon Hamilton joins us here in studio with more on this. I know you've been following this story very closely, really more than anybody else reporting on this. What stood out to you most? What did you learn from these documents today?
Yeah, when you're reading the documents, what stood out was that interview from the employee that worked at that villa where they stayed at. He talked about when those guests arrived. He talked about when they got there, how Shanquella was. So from reading that, he said that she seemed like she didn't fit in. So that leads you to think what happened in those hours to make her standoffish, because you would think if you went on a trip with someone,
with friends,
to another
right?
country,
yeah,
you would also be happy and be more juvenile in your expressions of wanting to be there. So that stood out for me, just the fact that he says she didn't seem like she wanted to be there.
Interesting. What is the Robinson family hoping the Biden administration can do at this point?
Yep, so they've been calling on this diplomatic intervention, which essentially is terms of having the president or someone of top authority in our federal government get involved by saying and doing to speed up the investigation process. And by speeding that up, the attorneys, they've been saying this when they went to DC earlier this month, and also in the letter, they want either the United States government to either extradite that one person that Mexico has said is the direct aggressor. They want that one person extradited back to Mexico, or to have the United States government take over the investigation and prosecute the person or persons in the U.S. And they want it done swiftly.
But bottom line, though, the FBI really not saying a whole lot, just that they're investigating,
Yep.
right? All right, our Brandon Hamilton's been on top of this story. He will continue to do so. Brandon, thanks for stopping by.
You know, this whole thing is just really disgusting, and it's very unsettling to hear this. You have the staff at the Cabo Villa saying after Shanquella was pronounced deceased, they left the so-called friends alone, and her cackling and laughing going on. Who was laughing and cackling? No one knows. The person couldn't possibly pick out voices of strangers, but just the thought of it is just evil. As for Dejanay Jackson, she's still being protected by her family and friends. She's got this warrant out and nothing is being done about it. Here's the thing, I talk about stuff like this all the time. Case after case after case where women are never held accountable. So am I surprised that Dejanay wasn't sent back to Cabo? No, I'm not surprised. Unfortunately, Shanquella is getting the normal response for the most part when the suspect is a woman. No one will do anything about it. If we saw a guy on camera doing what we saw Dejanay doing and then the woman being left lifeless, that man will already be locked up. So the special privilege that women get, that's usually supported by other women in the sisterhood, now showing up in the case against another woman. As for Karine Jean-Pierre, she's the White House press secretary. She has no power. She's just a black face who probably doesn't even consider herself to be black. I just don't understand why these folks are expecting a different reaction from her. I guess they want her to cry or be emotional, or maybe they're just looking for the same reaction and compassion that she would give to the LGBT community. I hope Shanquella receives justice. What happened to her is totally unacceptable, and another reminder for women to watch out for these fake friends as people are starting to plan spring and summer trips with their associates. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. What do you think about what's going on now in the Shanquella Robinson case? Special thank you to Paul. I appreciate you, Paul, for all of your support, as well as our sisters Tiffany, Keita G, and I can't forget about our brother Havelock. Don't forget that you can support this channel as well. Links to Cash App and PayPal are below. Ladies, fellas, want a balanced analysis, want the truth from a woman's perspective? Then you're going to want to subscribe to this channel and don't forget to like and share.